Hello everyone, welcome to my reading wrap-up for June, and I did get through 6 books as per usual. Some were mediocre and others were excellent. So I'll start with the first book that I finished, and is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This takes place on the coast of North Carolina. It starts in the 1950s and it sort of makes its way up to 1969. And in the past, there is a family that lives in a marsh away from the town, and the father is extremely abusive, and his wife ends up leaving and abandoning him and his children. And one by one, the children do leave the home, never to come back because of the abuse. And when the youngest, Kaya, is about 10 years old, her one remaining brother ends up leaving, and she is left alone with her father, who's very neglectful. He's away from home for weeks at a time, and then sometimes goes forward in time to 1969, where there is a body found of a young gentleman from town. It looks like an accident, but the sheriff is thinking it's probably a murder, and everyone's thinking it is Kaya, this marsh girl, as they call her. Some people found this story to be a little unrealistic. They don't understand how she could kind of cope on her own because her father was not around for most of the time. But I didn't really find it that unrealistic. I mean, it was the 1950s, it was an isolated town. The family was quite isolated. I mean, nowadays you hear about neglected, abused children who are kind of getting by on their own because their parents are so neglectful. And people aren't speaking up or anything. So I didn't think it was that unrealistic at all. But she's not very trustworthy of people because everyone has abandoned her. She does have a couple of relationships with men, and then it just goes through what she went through when she was blamed for the death of this person. So it's a beautifully written book. I didn't really find it slow. I just found it a bit of a page-turner, even though it was just kind of a slow-paced kind of book. Beautiful descriptions of the area and everything like that. You really felt for her, what she had to go through, and just the extreme loneliness and the mistrust and everything. So I really enjoyed it. I gave about 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express. So this is my 3rd book. And yeah, she is the queen of mystery. She really does plot twist really well. I was not expecting the ending. There was a bit of an inkling. I thought there was something off. But yeah, it was just a surprise. So this takes place on the Orient Express, a diverse group of people, and one of the passengers is murdered, and Inspector Poirot is trying to figure out who what passenger murdered this person. There's a snowstorm, so the train has stopped, and there's no way they can get going until people come out and kind of dig them out. So Poirot is trying to figure out who the murderer is. So, but yeah, I really, that's my 3rd book, and I really do enjoy them. And so it was Pride Month, so I wanted to read a couple LGBT books, and the first one was The Song of Achilles, and I just love the cover. Ooh, I like shiny things. This is by Madeline Miller, and so she has taken the stories of Achilles and Patroclus and has made it just a very easy to understand kind of read. It is, I've never read the Iliad by Homer. She doesn't get into a lot of detail about specific gods or about the Iliad, the Trojan War. It's more focused on Achilles and Patroclus. So they met as children, and then their friendship grew over the years. And it started off as a friendship, and eventually they fell in love. And so the first half was a little bit slow. It's just sort of how they grew up, and some of their adventures together, and how they eventually fell in love, that sort of thing. And the second half was more focused on the Trojan. It was focused on the Trojan War, but it didn't go in a lot of detail. A lot of people said they didn't like the battle scenes or the war and all that stuff, but the main focus was still on Achilles and Patroclus. And yeah, I knew the ending of the story because I did watch the movie, and I was familiar with the story of Achilles, so I was expecting that, but it was still kind of heart-wrenching. But yeah, Achilles was a bit of a jerk. He had a lot of flaws, and I think that was his downfall. And it just kind of covered how he got along with Patroclus and how their relationship changed during the war, and how Achilles, how he got along with all the other kings that were trying to attack Troy and that sort of thing. So it was a very beautiful writing style. It was very easy to read and understand, and so yeah, I enjoyed that one. Oh, this one. This one I did not enjoy. A beautiful cover. It's called Creatures by Chrissy Van Meter. Beautiful cover. So I was looking forward to this. It takes place on an island off the coast, a fictional island off the coast of California, and it's the couple days before this woman's wedding. And her mother, who's been very negligent and just shows up out of the blue once in a while during her life, shows up. And they go back in time, and you find out that the mother had abandoned her and her father when she was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. And then she kind of drifts in and out of their lives once in a blue moon. And so she was left with her father, who is a drug addict, a drug dealer, an alcoholic, negligent, just not a good, very dysfunctional family she grew up in. And it just, so the one big thing about this is the timelines are so messy. I don't mind a story, and I actually enjoy stories that go back in time and then go back in the future, back and forth, back and forth. I don't mind those. I like those. But the way she did it was just so poorly done. Like, she'd go back in time and you're like, okay, how old is the main character? And what's happening? Like, it takes like 2 or 3 pages to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Like, and then the one time they went back and they came back to the future, it was just one day before the wedding. Okay, fine. And then they go back in time again, and it's a totally different time period. You don't know what's going on. And they jump forward, and you think, okay, it's the day of the wedding. Fine, they were at the day of the wedding. But no, we're 10 years into the marriage, and their marriage is failing, and so it was just, and other people have said that too, that the timelines are just such a mess. It was not done well. She took a very difficult subject, child abandonment and neglect, and just tried to make it very lyrical and beautiful prose, and it just did not work. I don't think she just did justice to the horror of child abandonment and neglect. The dialogue between the characters, you just like, no. I gave this a 1 star. I give this the cover a 5 out of 5. The story, I did not like it. And I understand that the whole thing is like, if your childhood really affects your future relationships, I understand that. I can see that, but just the way everything was done just did not work for me. This is the Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cook, and it's just absolutely gorgeous cover. So this takes place a dual timeline also, and this one was done well, unlike that one. it takes place on a Scottish island where there's a lighthouse, and in the past, I guess Scotland was, well, all European countries were just brutal when it came to witch hunts and that sort of thing. I mean, there's no witches, but just innocent women who are being killed, basically. But I guess Scotland, like, killed a lot of people. Like, I think it's like an outrageous number, like 7,000 or even more than that. I can't remember the number because I kind of Googled it after, but it's just horrific. So there is, so they go back in time, they follow these people who are arrested and executed for witchcraft. And then it goes in present day where this woman comes to the island with her 3 daughters, and she kind of wants to, she has an art project that she's been hired to do. And eventually, the mother and the 2 daughters just disappear off the face of the earth, never seen again. And the 1 daughter who is remaining is put into foster care, etc. So she comes back to find out what happened to her mother and her 2 sisters. So it takes a little bit of a supernatural turn to it. People think a lot of these children who disappeared over the years came back, and there was a myth, kind of like a Scottish folklore, that if the children return, and sometimes they return like a few weeks or months or years after, years ago they were called, not changelings, I can't remember the term they called now, but they were told that if their children came back, they were not really their children, they were taken over by these, I don't know, some kind of fairies or something like that. So the parents would end up killing their own children because they think it's they were taken over. So anyway, but that was in the past. I'm rambling here. Anyway, it does take a little bit of a supernatural turn. It was an okay book. It wasn't great. I didn't hate it. So about 3.5. I mean, it was average. There's just a lot of plot holes, and I don't want to get into it because it'll kind of give away the supernatural element. But there's a lot of plot holes that just didn't quite add up, and I can kind of let those go. But this one just, the plot holes just were kind of obvious. But anyway, it was an enjoyable read. But you know, it was okay. And the last one was Aristotle and Dante Discovered the Secrets of the Universe, and this is by Benjamin Alire Saenz. This has won a lot of awards. So this, there's 2 young gentlemen, teenagers, who become very good friends. Dante is very outgoing and outspoken and is quite a free spirit, and Ari is very quiet and keeps to himself, doesn't have a lot of friends, just kind of has anger issues. So they're on different ends of the spectrum. And over the years, Dante figures out that he is gay, and his parents are very accepting, which is great. And but Dante says, you know, that's fine, I'll still be your friend, because they get along so well. And Dante's the only one that Ari can really get along well with. So a lot of different things happened. They go away to school, different schools. There's a car accident where Ari's injured quite badly, and then Dante gets beaten up for being gay, etc. And eventually Ari realizes that, you know, yeah, I am in love with Dante and vice versa, and it's a really beautiful story. It's great to see that the parents are supportive, because this takes place in the 80s. So to have supportive parents going through that was probably pretty unusual. But it was a really beautiful story, very well written. So I'm glad I was able to read that. So that's it. That is my reading for June, and I'm on my second book already, about halfway through my second book, so I'm doing pretty good this month. So if you've read any books that you've really enjoyed, let me know which ones. I hope you're enjoying your summer. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.